3 days after their mother was buried, someone emptied her safe. Not a stranger, one of her own children. And by Christmas, the family would never speak again. Nobody expected the handwritten letter. Nobody knew it existed. But once it was found, everything everyone believed about Margaret Wilson changed. Stay with me, because what happened next has become a warning shared by estate attorneys across America. Margaret thought she had planned everything. The will was signed, the trust was funded, the beneficiaries were listed. So why did her children end up accusing each other of theft? Sometimes the biggest inheritance isn't money, it's suspicion. Margaret Wilson was 78, a retired elementary school teacher from suburban Columbus, Ohio, widowed for almost 9 years. Neighbors described her as organized, quiet, practical. Every bill was filed, every birthday remembered, every Christmas card mailed by hand. She wasn't wealthy by celebrity standards, but after decades of saving, her estate had grown to nearly $940,000. Her mortgage was gone. Her retirement accounts were healthy. Her home had doubled in value. She believed she'd done everything right. She often told friends, "I don't want my children fighting after I'm gone." Sadly, that's exactly what happened. Meet her family. David, 53, a general contractor.
Dependable, protective, sometimes stubborn. Linda, 50, a registered nurse, calm under pressure, always the peacemaker. And Michael, 47, recently divorced, financially struggling, trying to rebuild his life. Margaret loved them equally. At least that's what everyone believed. 1 week before she died, Margaret asked each child to visit separately. No one knew. No one talked about those conversations afterward. At the funeral, everyone hugged, everyone cried, everyone promised to stay close. It looked like the ending of a good family story. It was only the beginning. 3 days later, David returned to help organize the house. Linda brought boxes. Michael arrived late. Everyone tried to stay polite until David opened the desk drawer. Inside, there should have been a small fireproof envelope. It wasn't there. Silence. David frowned. Linda looked confused. Michael shrugged. No one said anything. Not yet. Later that afternoon, David quietly asked,
"Mom kept her jewelry inventory in that envelope. Where is it?"
Michael answered first.
I don't know.
Simple, calm. Too calm? Nobody could tell. But from that moment, every ordinary conversation sounded suspicious. Then another discovery. Margaret's bedroom safe was unlocked. Nothing appeared obviously missing, but nobody knew exactly what had been inside. Receipts, jewelry, cash? No one could remember. Memory became unreliable. Emotion filled the gaps. And families often lose trust long before they lose money. But something much stranger was waiting in the lawyer's office. The attorney began with routine paperwork. Everything seemed ordinary. The home would be sold, retirement accounts divided according to beneficiary designations, savings distributed through the estate. Then, one sentence stopped the room cold. "A handwritten personal letter is attached for my children." Everyone looked up. The attorney unfolded a sealed page. Margaret's handwriting was unmistakable. She thanked each child, shared memories, expressed love, then wrote,
"I know one of you has already begun making decisions before hearing my wishes."
The room froze. She never named anyone. She never explained, but the sentence landed like a match in dry grass. Each sibling silently wondered, who was she talking about? Small details suddenly felt enormous. David remembered Michael asking about the safe months earlier. Linda remembered David changing the locks after their father died. Michael remembered Linda visiting alone every Tuesday. None of those facts proved anything. But grief changes how people remember. Questions replaced memories. Every conversation became an investigation. Old childhood arguments resurfaced. New accusations quietly formed. Then someone checked the bank records and found something unexpected. 2 weeks before Margaret passed away, a legitimate transfer had been made from her checking account. $15,000. Authorized, documented. The memo simply read, "Family Assistance." Who received it? Michael. Immediately, David exploded.
You took money before she died.
Michael fired back.
She offered it.
Linda asked the only question that mattered.
Did either of us know?
No. Margaret had never mentioned it. The transfer was legal, but emotionally, it changed everything, because fairness and legality are not always the same thing.
Then an unexpected witness appeared. Margaret's longtime neighbor, Susan Keller. She remembered seeing Margaret crying on her porch weeks earlier. Margaret had quietly said,
I wish my children would stop worrying about what they'll receive and spend more time asking how I'm doing.
Susan assumed it was simply sadness. Now, those words sounded painfully prophetic. The inheritance had already begun dividing the family before anyone received a single dollar.
The attorney confirmed the documents were valid. The estate plan had been carefully prepared. There was no fraud, no forged signatures, no missing amendments. Legally, the case was straightforward. Emotionally, it was collapsing. Every holiday invitation became awkward. Phone calls stopped. Grandchildren noticed. No courtroom could order trust back into the family. Months later, Linda found another envelope tucked inside an old photo album. It wasn't a legal document. It was a note Margaret had written.
If you're reading this together, then you've already received the greatest inheritance I could give you, each other. Don't let money convince you otherwise.
No instructions, no hidden fortune, just a mother's final hope. No one spoke for several minutes. Some cried, some looked away, but years of hurt cannot disappear in one afternoon. 5 years passed. The estate had long been settled. The money was gone. Some invested, some spent, some saved. But one thing never returned. Sunday dinners, birthday traditions, Christmas mornings together. Margaret's house had been sold, yet the real loss wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in empty chairs. Most inheritance wars don't begin with greed. They begin with silence, with assumptions, with conversations families believe can wait, until suddenly they can't. Margaret spent a lifetime building financial security. But even careful planning couldn't replace honest conversations while she was still alive. If this story made you think about your own family, don't wait for a lawyer's office to become the place where difficult conversations finally happen. Call someone. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Listen before it's too late. Because sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't the house or the savings or the investments. It's leaving behind a family that's still willing to sit at the same table. And once that inheritance is lost, there may be no way to earn it back.